In Parsha Beshalach, Torah relates to us through the psukim really a fundamental principle of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. And it really highlights, I think, the kayach of Bechira, and how HaKadosh Baruch Hu sort of, views us in making those choices. Because it says that right by Kriyas Yamsov, it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought a Ruach Aza, Kodim, so a strong easterly wind, some kind of a stormy situation where we could just imagine the swirling, whatever the thunder, whatever the particular specifics were, but there was some kind of a sort of a seemingly natural event of wind stirring up that ultimately was the precursor for the ultimate splitting of the sea. And Farshim point out, I think the Sefer Chinuch talks about this as well, that there's a reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu did that. And the reason is that even in the most glaring, and clearly we know from the Ramban, the power of these miracles was so clear. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was delivering to the world his intimate involvement with the daily affairs of our lives, that he's involved. If he can change the laws of nature, literally in a second's notice, certainly that means it's a clear sign of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's involvement in this world. He didn't just leave it for somebody else or some natural laws of nature sort of take over, that he is guiding those laws of nature on a regular basis. Mechadish betuvay, b'choyim tovit maaseh reishis. That's happening every single day. So because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, despite the fact that he wants to do the miracles, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to see the miracles, he wants us to internalize the miracles, he wants us to be able to have a choice in appreciating whether or not that is a miracle. Meaning that in other words, if a person saw a miracle that was so completely defied any type of bechira, any type of possible choice of interpreting it, well then there's nothing left. Then the bottom line is there's a God in the world, and I don't have to find God. I don't have to see God. I don't have to seek Him out and look and be introspective, not only in my heart but also into the events of the world. It's just right there for me. That's not what life is about. Life is about internalizing. Life is about making choices. Life is about how are you willing to take the situation and go with it and walk away from it in terms of what are you seeing. That is a constant principle and a constant method by which HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. Even by Kriyas Yamsuf, the Sefer Chinuch talks about also by the coming down of the fire from Shemayim, miracles that clearly were miracles. You can't really argue with it, but you know what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I know there's cynics in the world, and I know there are people who are not going to want to see, so let me give you a choice. Let me give you an opportunity to see something that, whatever the numbers are, 90%, 95%, whatever, is one way. But you know what? If you really want to twist it, if you want to be like that article in the New York Times and LA Times, we don't have to necessarily believe there was a miracle when the Jewish people left the Jewish people could have escaped from Egypt, and no miracle needed to be involved because scientists calculated that as the Jews approached the Red Sea, had there been some kind of a tsunami with a lunar and solar eclipse together with a major earthquake and some other type of natural occurrences, that all coming together would have been the perfect storm to allow the Jewish people to walk into the sea. So there's no reason to introduce God. It doesn't have to be it was a miracle. And I'm looking at this article, like I'm saying, do you realize, and you clearly have, an IQ of something. I mean, you're a writer for one of the so-called prestigious papers in America, if there is anything like that left. That, you don't have to bring God into that. So that's exactly, and the Torah even says, that's, who knows, maybe that's exactly what happened. Okay, maybe the Ruach Aza was just symbolic of a series of incredible events that took place based on the laws of nature, so that 1% cynic can see those events and say, it's not a Kodesh Baruch Hu, which means how careful we have to be. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, therefore we have to sort of always be alert, and we always have to be looking for the signs. Obviously, we don't get miracles every day like fire coming down from the heavens or Kriyas Yamsuf, but L'maisa, there are miracles. There are things that happen that are really almost inexplicable, and certainly just on the international scale, those Scud missiles dropping in Eretz Yisrael is just one of those examples, but there are probably many others. But the point is that we have to make sure that we're exercising our bechira properly, that chas v'shalom, the cynical part or whatever, the skeptic part or whatever it is, the lazy part of us doesn't sort of walk right by it, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu will not hit us over the head in a way that we don't have to see it. Even though it might be very evident, we still have to see it. We have to internalize it. But what's amazing also is the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls that bechira, and he gives us, because there is still that doubt, because there is that 1%, 2%, whatever it is, chance for the cynic to argue and to be blind to the events. That means when we do internalize it, we get the credit. And then if somebody sees it and gets inspired, that's called Isairis. That's called Amunah. That's called having B'tachah B'Hashem. If when we take those messages and we internalize it, because it's so easy to be in a delivery room and walk away saying, "Yeah, babies are born." That's just what happens. Or you can take that event to heart and say, I was witnessing a miracle, an undeniable miracle of how this comes to be. This little precious little baby sitting here now in this delivery room, it just defies comprehension. So sometimes, if we have to be in that mode, and something that I think HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us, that this is the way we have to live our lives. We always have to be looking and appreciating and internalizing, and recognizing that even though some things are obvious, when we look into them, as Klal Yisrael looked into Kriyas Yamsuf, appreciated it, brought themselves to this incredible Oz Yashir moment. This is the way we have to live our lives. We always have to be looking and being introspective and also analytical about the events, to be honest, so that L'maisa, we're constantly internalizing these messages. We're constantly gaining chizuk in terms of our amun and bitachon, and that no matter how obvious a miracle might be, or hashgachas might be, hashgacha pratas might be, the fact that we're looking at it and we're internalizing, we're walking away from it with greater inspiration, that itself, Gufa, is something that for us will be deemed meritorious, will be schaf for us. Hashem allow us to go.